Nation in Conversation, proudly brought to you by AFGRI, Fort Knox, Hinterland, Monsanto, Nedbank, NWK and Sendes. We share the future, stand side by side, one earth, one people. We'll turn the tide, and in the future they will say with pride, one earth, one people. We turn the tide, side by side.
Good day, this is Nation in Conversation. We welcome you from Forum Homini in the cradle of humankind. Today's discussion is centered around labor relations and human resources with a particular focus on the development of new farmers and mentorship programs. Remember to join the conversation on Twitter at Nation Converse. Joining me in the studio today is Marion Sikwinya, Managing Director, Harvest Time, and Joe Mashwanganyi. He's the Executive Director of Senves. Marion, I want to start with you. In terms of the developing of new farmers, what is your approach?
Thank you, Theo. Theo, for AFGRI, that journey started in 2012 when we were gaining momentum in terms of new farmers coming into our client database. And we realized that there were a number of challenges that we needed to address under a separate vehicle. And therefore, we started a company by the name of Harvest Time Investment, where we wanted to house our enterprise development initiatives in an effort to also assist in accelerating government's efforts in agri-sector transformation. And there, what we wanted to do, Theo, was specifically address a number of challenges that we were seeing within the new farmer space. And those challenges included a lack of skills. We wanted to address that. And then also, there was also a lack of technical advice that the farmers did not have and could not access. And then also a lack of access to funding. We do technical advisory in the form of demonstrations on the farm so that the farmers see the results of what we're teaching them. And then also in terms of addressing the lack of technical skills that the farmers didn't have. So in terms of the mentorship, we've got two elements to it. We've got one, a mentor that assists the farmer with his business and takes them through the whole process of how to run their business. And then in terms of the technical advisory, we've got an agronomist that goes into the farm and takes the farmer through the process and through the whole cycle in terms of what to do and what not to do in terms of good farming practices and so forth. With respect to funding, access to funding, we've tried to make sure that the farmers are able to access funding by ensuring that we are able to mitigate certain risks, because that is the biggest challenge, Theo. So that is the training program that we run within Harvest Time.
How do you approach it, Joe?
I think to a very great extent, we approach it almost in a similar way, because we focus on the critical challenges that an emerging farmer faces. And those challenges, as Marian has already indicated, are access to inputs. So the farmer needs to be able to access inputs cost efficiently. And the second thing is financing. We provide access to finance for the farmers. The money is available out there, but your emerging farmer doesn't always have what is required in terms of collateral.
So the funds is there, and you will assist that channeling of that funds.
Yeah, so we have come up with credit policies that are friendly and makes it easier for emerging farmers to access finance. But in order for us to ensure that we mitigate our risk as well, we put in place technical support that will ensure that the farmer succeeds in what they're doing. So we would go out there and send soil scientists and agronomists to go and actually check if the soil is correct, if the farmer is planting the correct crop, if they're doing things in the correct times in the cycle, so that they can get a better yield. Because
but for you also, access to the markets is important.
It is very crucial. It's one thing for the farmer to farm and produce a good yield, but then he has to get that that crop he has to get that harvest to the market. And we provide that service, because in agriculture, it's not a question of easily getting this stuff and go and sell it to the end user. A lot of it is sold to processors. And that access to the off-taker is a very technical process, and we assist them with that.
After the break, I want to focus on the success stories, because I do think we need to realize there is success stories, and then also about the opportunities in the broader agri value chain. Nation in Conversation will be back after the break. Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. We continue our discussion around human resource management and the development of new farmers. With me in the studio, Marian Chiquinya, Managing Director of Harvest Time, and Joe Mashwanganye, Executive Director of Senves. Marian, we talk about new farmers coming into the market. Is there success stories?
For us as AFRI and Harvest Time, our successes have not been only with specific farmers, but we see success within the entire program, because when we started with the program in 2012, we have been able to provide funding for the farmers, and in those years up to now, the farmers have been able to repay all their facilities, year in after year. One particular success story that I would like to share with you, Theo, is of a fully Black female-run co-op called Tarameta Farming in Mpumalanga. They have done very well in that they have been able to not only repay their facilities throughout the different cycles, but they've also been able to bank very good profits. And that is one particular story that we pride ourselves of.
Joe, why are we not hearing enough of these success stories?
Here, one, to a great extent, is that we don't talk about it quite a lot. We always focus on talking about challenges, and so we don't really celebrate and publicize the good things that we do. And I think that's one of the challenges. So we have to do a lot more talking about those successes and to relate these to the media, so that the media can also publicize what we are doing. We have been working with a group of farmers in Vereeniging, and we work with them as individual farmers operating in land that has been leased to them by government. And for us, the measures of success is firstly that the farmer is able to farm, that they are able to repay their debts, that they are able to make profits, and that they are able to farm sustainably from year to year. And we have had some of these farmers that have been now farming for about 5 years, and they are growing. So from 1 year, they will plant, say, a certain number of hectares, from 100 hectares, and the farmers are growing to 200 hectares, 300 hectares the next year. And they're also employing more people in their farms. And so they're growing as business people, and that to us is actually success. They're moving from developing to commercial farmers.
Joe, when we talk about new farmers, that's only a small portion of the whole agri-value chain. Agriculture is not only about planting seed or herding cattle. The value chain is a lot longer and deeper, with opportunities right through that value chain. Can you perhaps elaborate on some of these elements in a value chain?
I think when you look at the whole agricultural value chain, it starts right through from the manufacturing of inputs. And those inputs include things like seed and fertilizer, diesel. So that stuff comes through to the primary producer, the farmer, who then farms. And in that farming, there is quite a lot of stuff that actually happens there. You have soil scientists, you have agronomists, you have agricultural economists, you have livestock specialists that assist the farmer. And once the farmer has planted, harvested, that stuff goes through to some form of storage. In our case, we store grain in our silos, but that storage could be anything. You could be storing potatoes, you could be storing milk, you could be storing meat. And from there, it actually goes to the processor. So in the case of grain, that grain is then processed into maize meal. Or in the case of wheat, it's processed into flour and all of that. From there, it actually moves on, and you then bake bread. It goes to the supermarket. So there's financing in the process, there's logistics in the process, there's research, and there's a whole lot of technical stuff. There's mechanization and equipment that is being used. And so there's opportunities for mechanics, for agricultural equipment. So it's a whole big value chain that has a whole lot of opportunities for young people particularly.
Marion, if one looks at the whole value chain, what would your advice be for young people that look at this and say, wow, this is an industry I want to get involved in? How would one go about that?
Theo, I think maybe just to mention, having heard Joe elaborate on the entire value chain, this can only tell you one thing, that agriculture is big business. And that is what the young people must know out there, that agriculture is not just, going into the farm, waking up at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning. It's big business throughout the entire value chain. But in terms of advising a young person, in terms of how you can get into agriculture, there are a number of avenues. You've got your universities, that's where you start, that's your base. They've got a whole variety of courses that you can go through in terms of upskilling yourself and making sure that you're ready for the business world. And then you can approach several agribusiness, or you can start your own business. And that's what we're looking for, entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of ways you can get into agriculture. And
the agriculture will become more and more important as food security becomes important, as more people urbanize, and as the pressure on land use and the effective use of land gets bigger and bigger. So it is an industry that one should look at from a career point of view, but it's an industry that will grow in the future in terms of prominence. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly. Agriculture is crucial because people always have to eat. And we are actually finding now that with development and urbanization, that you're getting the land for food production is getting smaller. So we need to find ways of producing efficiently, getting better yields. But there's also a lot of technology.
Marion, where can the viewers get more information?
Yeah, in terms of understanding more about agribusiness and what we have to offer, there is a lot of information on our website, www.afgri.co.za. Not only do we provide information about our company, but we realize that as a pioneer within the agribusiness or the agri sector, we need to be sharing much broader information. So there will be a lot of information for the viewers to pick up there. But in terms of studies into agriculture, viewers can go into the different university websites, but then also just broad information relating to the agricultural sector. The Department of Agriculture, Forestries and Fisheries is also a good resource.
Joe, the value of the primary agriculture sector, and I'm purely saying about the land, equipment and livestock, is about 360 billion rand. It's a big sector, but it's a sector that is going to get bigger. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly. The world's population is growing, and people are always going to need food. And so that sector will grow. And that growth comes with opportunities for people coming into the industry. But it's a very challenging industry. And that is why we will continue to look for innovative and integrated solutions. And that is our focus as Senvis, not only for the commercial farmer, but to actually assist the emerging farmer to be able to meet these growing needs in a profitable and sustainable way.
If I look at the yield difference between a world-class commercial farmer and, let's say, a traditional farmer in the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, there's a massive gap there. Surely that creates a big opportunity for anybody to get involved in. What's your view on that?
There's definitely a very big gap. If you look in our areas, for example, the big commercial farmer would yield something like times 7, 8 per hectare, and you find an emerging farmer yielding something like times 1.5 to 2 per hectare. So in that gap, there is actually quite a lot of opportunities, and we we play in that space to actually try and help the developing farmer to move from those low yields to the higher yields. And a lot of technical assistance is actually required in that space.
After the break, I want to talk about the future, and I want to get your guys' views on where we're heading, how the landscape's going to look in 5, 10, 20 years from today. Nation in Conversation will be back after the break. Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. We continue our discussion around human resource management and the development of new farmers. With me in the studio, Marion Shiquinya, Managing Director of Harvest Time, and Joe Mashwanganye, Executive Director of Senves. Marion, if we look 5, 10, 15 years into the future, how do you see the sector?
So, Theo, it's more research and more innovative solutions to the challenges that we face. And we as AFGRI have actually started positioning ourselves in the right direction, because we've already set up a directorate that looks into e-services and how we can use innovation in order to support the farmer, and not only the new farmer, but the commercial farmer. So I think that's where we're going. And in terms of development, I would like in 10 years to see more and more farmers who move from today's new farmer to the new commercial farmer, so that's really where I hope agriculture will go in 10 years.
Joe, if I ask the same question to you, if you look at your crystal ball, and you know what you know now, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, how do you see the agriculture sector changing?
I think I'll cover 3 things. One is just to look at the market as a whole. The market will grow with the growth in population. And so there'll be more opportunities for food production. The second one is from a transformation point of view, that I see a lot more Black people involved throughout the value chain. And thirdly, I think Marion touched it, it's from an innovation point of view, that there's a lot of innovation happening in agriculture, new ways of doing things, finding new ways of actually improving efficiency and productivity in the sector. In Senves, we have a division called Innovation and Integrated Solutions, and the purpose of that division is to help the farmer to farm more efficiently, to use more resources and get better outputs, and to be able to do things faster with fewer resources. And we are doing quite a lot of research that would help farmers, both emerging and commercial, to be able to farm productively and be able to farm profitably, but also to make sure that their businesses are sustainable going into the future. The other area is that agriculture is consolidating, I think, across the whole value chain. So businesses are becoming bigger and fewer. And that is as a result of the costs associated with farming. Input costs are quite high, regulatory compliance costs are quite high, electricity is becoming expensive, water is becoming expensive. So the smaller players find it a little bit difficult to compete. And so businesses are coming together, growing into bigger businesses, so that they can be able to get synergies and become better profitable in their businesses. And I think that will continue to happen across the value chain.
Joe, if you were to give advice to a viewer, somebody that says, gee, I like this industry, this is interesting, I want to get involved in this, what would your advice be to that viewer?
Well, the first advice would be follow your dream. But where do you start in following that dream is find information. And as Marion has already indicated, that information is available at universities. It's available in the agribusinesses. If you go to the Senves website, you will find quite a lot of information about agriculture. If you go to the commodity organizations, we have AgBiz, which covers agribusinesses. We have the milling companies, we have the red meat commodity organizations. All of those organizations would have information that you require. And then I think the other thing is get into contact with the person who is already in that business so that they can actually give you advice. They can tell you how they have how the journey has been for them, what the challenges are, and give you advice in terms of how you can deal with those challenges. But don't sit back and not do anything about it. Contact organizations like ourselves, contact universities, contact practitioners in the field, and that would be the best way to get started.
Would you agree with me that the South African agriculture value chain is world-class?
Certainly, yeah. It is definitely world-class. When you look at the South African commercial farmer, including our emerging farmers, in many countries, including the United States and most of Europe, farmers are highly subsidized by their governments. In South Africa, those subsidies are not there, but our farmers are producing at world-class yield levels, and definitely our agricultural sector is world-class.
So it's a world-class sector with a great future. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking part in this conversation. Please visit our website, nationinconversation.co.za, and follow us on Twitter @NationConverse. Please join us again as we continue with our conversations. From me, Theo Foster, goodbye.
Nation in Conversation, proudly brought to you by AFGRI, Fort Knox, Interland, Monsanto, Nedbank, NWK, and Sendes.
The world is changing today. The world is changing in every way. Let's stand together, put our hands together, join hands forever. We're making it better. No matter where you are, you could be near or far away. We're singing together, we're dancing together, we're changing